In this video, we're going to be looking at shiny object syndrome and how devastating it can be to your business and your productivity. However, not at all times. In some cases, having shiny object syndrome as an entrepreneur can be a positive, and we're going to have a look at how we can use that to our advantage. But when it's a bad thing, how we should not let it get in our way, not let it distract us, so that we can be focused, so that we can stay on top of our businesses, so that we can actually grow as a business, as a person, sorry, what was that? My new iPhone's just in. Okay, there in a second. I'm just going to distract them for a bit. New iPhone's just in. Back in a minute. Please like and subscribe in the meantime. Hit it. Shiny. So as mentioned in the intro, shiny object syndrome, or SOS as it's sometimes referred to, can be a double-edged sword. And like a double-edged sword, a knife, for example, can be used to cut an apple and make a delicious meal, or it could be used in the movie Psycho and haunt us for the rest of our lives.
Ooh, shiny.
So what we want to make sure is we want to understand what this thing, shiny object syndrome, is. The media and coaches and people, when they talk about shiny object syndrome, predominantly they're saying it's bad. Stay away from it. And whilst in the majority of cases that is true, there is a really positive side to it. So let's break down the positive and the negative, and let's see how we can actually use it in both ways. Right, so let's have a quick look at how shiny object syndrome can actually be a positive thing. I mean, we as entrepreneurs are built from the ground up to be innovators. And having a shiny object syndrome as part of that is actually really important, because an entrepreneur is all about finding new solutions to existing problems and then turning it into a profitable enterprise. That's what an entrepreneur really boils down to. So being able to look for new solutions is part and parcel of what we do as entrepreneurs. And that inherent need and desire for us to keep looking for new solutions is consistently within our desire to become entrepreneurs. Having shiny object syndrome in that case is actually a really good thing, because what we do is we look at the next solution and the next one and the new one, and we sit there and we explore it and we sort of test it out and see how it can be better inside. That's what we think. How can we make it better? Oh, this bit's not good. Oh, that bit's not bad. Oh, I would change this. And then a new thing comes out, and then we explore that and we test that out. And then the new one, and then the new one. And that is really good sometimes when you're trying to come up with new solutions to problems that currently exist. However, let's have a look at the bad side of shiny object syndrome. So what's the bad side of shiny object syndrome then? I mean, you all know. Let's have a proper conversation here from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. We get bogged down by the next big thing and the next shiny thing and the next good thing and the next one and the next one and the next one, and it never stops. And we sit there and we convince ourselves that, hey, this is us being more productive, more innovative, more this, more that. And here's the one that really gets me every single time. How many times have you sat down, as much as me, guilty, how many times have you sat down and tried to find the next best productivity tool where all you need to do is just write a to-do list on a piece of paper? And how many times do we sit there and we try and say, right, this is going to make it better and better and better and better and better and better. But actually what we're doing is we're jumping around from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, and we don't ever get anywhere significant. And that is a huge, huge problem for shiny object syndrome. And we, as entrepreneurs, in the same way that we're built inherently to look at it from an innovative perspective, we are still built inherently to keep looking and keep looking and keep looking and keep looking, and it never stops. And that's where it becomes destructive to your business, because your business, actually, to have an entrepreneurial-based business, you need to have two sides of things. You need to have the innovative side where you come up with a solution to a pain point. And then you need to have the side where you actually run the business and you keep it going. And the difference, I have seen a lot of businesses that have succeeded and a lot of businesses that have failed. And the difference predominantly, I mean, there are a lot of other reasons, but a major, major reason why a business fails and another succeeds is the difference in how consistent and systematic they are in running that business. And if they are jumping from one idea to the other, to the other, to the other, or one tool to the other, to the other, to the other, or one whatever it is to the other, to the other, to the other, the business never gets anywhere. It just doesn't go anywhere. It just keeps being all over the place. It's like you sitting down trying to have a line where you're saying, let me plot this line from here to here, or you're sitting down just scattering points everywhere, and you try and make sense of those points and try and sort of draw some kind of pattern, and it doesn't work because it's not going anywhere. So what we want to do is we want to find ways where we can use shiny object syndrome to our benefit and actually avoid it when it's really bad. So let's have a look at the few things we can do to be able to enable that. So the first thing that I always recommend to any business owner is really be strategic. And if you've watched this video up here on strategy, I mentioned Ben Hunt Davis and his philosophy of will it make the boat go faster? And I mention this philosophy a lot of times because I really think it drives that whole idea home. He was hell-bent on whether or not anything he did or any decision his and his team made, if it was going to make the boat go faster, they did it. If it wasn't going to make the boat go faster, they didn't do it. And that's what I want you to do in your business. I want you to be strategic. Put down a destination and say, is any decision I'm going to do going to get me to that place?
Better, stronger, faster.
So what is your goal? What is your destination? What is your strategy? And make sure that you're saying to yourself anything that's going to allow you to get to that destination and make that strategy a reality. Do it. Anything that's not going to do it, whether it's a new tool or a new idea or a new product or a new service or a new email campaign or a new this or a new that or a new this, don't do it. If it's going to make you get there, then do it. And then everything else, don't do it. So that's number one. The next one is all about focus. And nobody got anywhere significant without really focusing. So now you've got your strategy. What you need to do is you need to say, right, I am going to focus so that I can actually get to this part. And the ability to focus on that goal and that destination and that strategy and letting everything else go away, not get in your way, not distract you, is really, really important. And no matter how many times I stress this, we all fall prey of lack of focus. So I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you become superhuman and ignore all our sort of human impulses. We're going to get distracted. But what we need to do is we need to find ways to keep that focus going. If that means you put a vision board and you put it up on your wall, do that. If that means that you need to sit there and journal, do that. If that means you need to sit there and have a to-do list, do that. Whatever it is that keeps you focused and keeps you on target, make sure that you find the right tactics that you're going to do and do it. Now, don't sit there and spend years and years and years trying to find the right tactic and the right way that it's going to keep you focused, because that's not what this is about. Pick something that works for you and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And if it's not working, optimize it and perfect it and tweak it so that you can do it better. And that's how any business really succeeds. It's getting that single focus of doing one thing and keeping down that path and optimizing and optimizing and optimizing that particular thing until it's got it right. Then it can try something else. But up until then, it's optimizing and measuring and trying to see, is this thing working or not? And it's the same thing that when you're doing your own tasks and your own sort of goals and tasks and roles and all of these things, make sure that you are sitting there measuring them. This is my goal. This is where I'm going to go. And this is how I'm going to get there. How am I going to measure that? And how often am I going to measure that? And how am I going to tweak that so that it keeps me going and it keeps me going and it keeps me going? So number 2 is focus. So number 3 is slow down. Now, what do I mean by slow down? Remember I said be strategic, be focused, now slow down. Sometimes we need to slow down to speed up. And a lot of times we are sitting there speeding up, trying to do things so fast, trying to do things ridiculously fast that we do not have time to measure, to optimize, to really understand what we're doing and be consistent, because that's what's going to really grow your business. It's that consistency, that measurability, that ability to optimize and really master that singular focus that you're doing. That's what's really going to get you there. And you're not going to get there when you're going to be scatter, 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 scatter. Let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. Trying to do things so fast, it's not going to work. You're going to end up letting balls drop and you're going to say, this isn't working, let me try something else. And then you're going to do the same thing and then you're going to say, that's not working, let me try something else and something else and something else. Well, all the while, you just need to slow down And you need to take stock, and you need to focus, and you need to be strategic, and you need to measure and optimize and really, really master that thing. Remember the tortoise and the hare story? There's a message in that somewhere. I'm still trying to figure out what that message is, but there's a message in there somewhere. Number 3, tortoise. No. Number 3, slow down. That's the one. So the 4th one is less is more. And I know we've said and heard this before many, many times, but it couldn't be more correct. We've talked about being strategic, focusing, slowing down. Now, don't take on too many things, because if you take on so many things that you will not be able to deal with, we're going to go back to that whole speeding up, letting balls drop, and not being able to have the ability to master those particular things that you're taking on.
Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe.
And that's where it's really important. So here is where you can start actually trying to give yourself a challenge, because remember I said our inherent ability in shiny object syndrome is for us to try and perfect and find new ways. What you do is when you slow down and try and take on less things, try and find innovative ways to optimize that less number of things that you're actually doing. That singular focus that you're doing, it's not optimal yet. So try and optimize that. Find new ways to do that. Play around with new ways to optimize that. Now, I don't mean go and pick another tool, go and find a new software piece, go and find a new device, go and find this, that, the other. I mean, once you've picked that particular tool, or once you've picked that particular way of doing things, and that's what you're going to do, tweak it and optimize it and master it so that it can actually be perfect. And until when it's perfect, then go on and do something else. So less is more. And by doing less, you're finding ways to enable you to optimize that. Because again, when you try and do a lot of things, you're not going to have that headspace to sit down and try and optimize each one of them. So they're not going to be right. They're not going to be mastered. They're not going to be perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to find in our heads, this isn't perfect. Let me go and find something else that is. So what we want to do is basically less is more. Now, there is one more other thing that I do to say, how do I balance all this together? And that's an important thing as well, because I've been talking at the beginning, I said, well, actually, shiny object syndrome is a good thing. So how do we implement this where we have this harmony where we can still play around with shiny object syndrome, but not let it get in our way of our businesses and our growth? Let's have a look at that right now. So there are a couple of things that I do to make sure that I get this harmony. The first one is allow myself some playtime within my business. And I'm not talking about hobby like away from business. I'm talking about playtime within my business. And I call this shiny object syndrome time, playtime, whatever you want to call it, and schedule it into your timetable. A couple of hours a week, an afternoon, and like an evening, whenever it is. And that's the time where you sit down and play with new toys, play with new tools, play with new things. But don't bring it into your business unless you think that it's going to make your boat go faster. As we were saying in terms of being strategic, being focused, slowing down, less is more. Is it going to fall under these categories? Is this new thing that you're actually playing with going to allow those things to be better? If it is, then we'll find a way to integrate them. If it isn't, leave it alone and go and play with the next new thing. And give yourself that space to innovate and give yourself that space to come up with new ideas. And then if that new idea is actually a fantastic idea that should be implemented in your business but not now, put it down as a list of things that once we've perfected this thing that we are now currently focused on, once that's perfected, we can then start a new revenue stream or a new way or a new tool or a new system, a new way of automating, a new way of capturing processes, whatever it is, that is a new way of doing it. It's going to come later. It's fantastic and I think it's amazing. And that's when you do that within your own shiny object syndrome time. Now, the next thing that I do as part of growing my businesses is making sure that I've got a visionary and an integrator within the business. And I talk about this when I review the book Rocket Fuel in this video up here. What that essentially comes down to is we as entrepreneurs are typically visionaries where we bounce around trying to find out new ideas. And if we start converting that effort into systemizing and having processes and measuring and doing that boring spreadsheet stuff that somebody else as an integrator will find incredibly exciting, we will not be happy in what we're doing. We will get overwhelmed. We will burn out. We will try and find solutions to these things that we shouldn't be finding solutions for. We just need to make them work and tick, and we don't do that. So what we inevitably do is we try and do all of these things, and then we'll find out that we burn out and we get overwhelmed. So finding an integrator to take over that stuff where they will allow you to play around with shiny object syndrome even more whilst the business is still running and ticking and you doing your role as the CEO of your business, that then works as a really good team and a harmony within the business. And you need to have those two. Now, if you cannot afford to bring on an integrator in the beginning, then what you need to do is maybe get a VA or somebody who will help you structure your day, structure your business so that you can actually get these things done as much as possible. And even before that, so if you haven't got to that stage, even then we talk about scheduling in that sort of time where you can play and have that shiny object syndrome. But as soon as you can and as soon as you can afford it, make sure that if you are a visionary, try and get an integrator into your business. If you're an integrator on the other side of the spectrum where you don't suffer from shiny object syndrome, why are you watching this video? But if you're that person and you're not suffering from shiny object syndrome, you need to get someone in who actually will play around with new stuff and innovate and have that visionary foresight of where the business can actually go. So you need both of these people in the business to be able to make it really, really grow. So with all that said, I want you to write down in the comments below what technique you're going to be using to make sure that you don't let shiny object syndrome get in your way. I'd love to read your comments, so please make sure that you write them down. I'm going to respond to each and every single one of them. And if you haven't already, please like the video and hit that subscribe button if you're not part of this amazing, awesome community. I'll see you next time.